Eskom is releasing its annual results today. The power utility has implemented a generation recovery program and reliability program under the CEO Andre De Ruyter. The company has reduced its debt by around 80 million rand and has cancelled several dodgy contracts. But Eskom has been struggling with load shedding. Heidi Giokos is tracking the story for us. Heidi, good afternoon. Thank you for making time. The annual results for Eskom expected this afternoon. What will be interesting to see is whether or not Eskom has managed to drop its over 400 billion rand debt.
Yes, certainly, Clement. I think there's a large number of factors that we'll be looking out for, specifically how Eskom has managed to decrease its major debt. We do know it's over 400 billion rand. We do know that Eskom has been trying by all means to try and decrease that, of course relying heavily on government fiscus to try and decrease that debt. We do know that money has also been given to Eskom in budget speeches time and time again to try and cope with the expenses that Eskom finds itself in. We do know that the issue of corruption, questionable tenders, is constantly associated when it comes to Eskom. And now with the new board and a CEO, they are, of course, trying to deal with a number of issues. So we'll definitely be keeping our eye on whether or not these financial results ending March 2021 will reflect a decrease in that ballooning debt of over 400 billion rand.
Yeah, it's also on public record, Heidi, that Eskom has lost billions during the hard lockdown.
Yes, certainly, and one would think that that would have not been the case, but it seems as though COVID-19 and the hard lockdown has impacted the power utility Eskom. We do understand that over 7 billion rand has been lost due to the hard lockdown. We'll, of course, be able to see the finer details as to what caused the loss of 7 billion rand for the power utility during the hard lockdown. We do know that large businesses, of course, were unable to operate, that rely heavily on the power utility, and perhaps that is what has contributed to the loss of 7 billion rand. The fact that businesses were unable to pay because there was that hard lockdown and unable to operate to full capacity. So we'll most certainly get a clearer understanding of the losses that have been made due to hard lockdown and anything else that could have possibly come up. You mentioned in the intro, Clement, that the current CEO, Andre De Ruyter, has been able to eliminate some of questionable contracts and tenders. So it will be interesting to see how much of that has actually been done and how much of that has been cost saving, because we do know that Eskom has been known to buy coal at an inflated price, and of course these questionable tenders and deals that Eskom has been involved in.
Yeah, so load reduction and load shedding, that's surely, two things that a lot of people are looking forward to hear about. What's the plan going forward?
Clement, I hope in my career I can be able to say that load shedding is gone away with. And I hope that we will be able to get a clearer sense as to when load shedding will actually be away with. But just constantly seeing Eskom's updates, we do know that a load reduction happens on a daily basis. And this is mostly in areas where there is a huge problem, where the residents of that particular area do not pay, and there's been an issue for many years. For example, in Soweto, we do know that Soweto residents face load reduction almost every single day, as there is a schedule that has been sent out by Eskom. Load shedding, we haven't experienced much of that lately in the past month or so, but we most certainly experienced serious load shedding during the winter, and we do know that Eskom constantly says in order for things to be fixed, they need to switch off the power, and when there's a heavy strain on the system, this of course impacts the electricity and the grid, and this is why they have to go through load shedding. But surely, I must say, it's probably about 10 years later, we're still facing the same problem. Is there ever going to be a proper solution, and when will we see an end to this? So we'll definitely be posing those questions to the CEO and other Eskom officials and try and ascertain as to when, if ever, load shedding will end.